tubers. Today we're going to talk about Harley Davidson and their clutches. Clutch cables, things you can do to help, and ways you can improve and learn what's going on with your motorcycle and its clutch. On this particular motorcycle, it's a 2016 Dyna Lowrider S, and the clutch cable was pretty hard to pull in for me. I'm getting older. I've had some accidents, and my hands are getting not as strong as they used to be. So I've installed a one-finger clutch pull kit, which is a new clutch lever that is mechanically altered to make it easier to pull the clutch in. And I've also installed a Mueller power clutch. So those two things plus a brand new clutch cable and brand new primary fluid. And after scavenging the internet and YouTube and trying to look for some information for adjustments on a motorcycle that has both a easy pull clutch kit and a Mueller power clutch, I didn't find much. I found a few people say, you know, don't use both, or if you use one, you don't need the other, and things like that. But I decided to kind of go down this path of why not use both? I don't see why not. And after doing some research and adjustments, which I'll get into in a minute, I have finally come to the conclusion that you can absolutely use both of those items, and they're actually quite effective. When I say one finger clutch lever, this is what I'm talking about here. You can buy them online. And I don't have the Mueller power clutch in hand because it's installed here on the transmission side. But all it does is has deeper dishes for those three balls to go in, and it allows the plate more play with the same pull on the clutch lever. But that's inside here. Now we're going to talk about the adjustments of the clutch. This right here is your derby cover area on the left side of the motorcycle. And in here you have your clutch adjuster screw, which is number 2. That's an Allen head. And you also have the jam nut, which is number 1, and that's an 11/16 on this particular motorcycle. The other area on the bike that you can adjust the clutch is at the clutch cable itself. There's a rubber boot you need to slide off, and then a lock nut and the adjustments. There's the cable adjuster, the jam nut or lock nut, and then the cable end. These areas here and this area here is where you can adjust it. Now, according to the book, you loosen the jam nut and the clutch adjuster screw, and then you adjust the screw inward until it's lightly seated. Then you back out the screw 1/2 to 1 full turn while holding the adjuster screw, tighten the jam nut, and then squeeze the clutch lever 3 times to release the mechanism. Okay, on that note, I just want to say their recommendation for 1/2 turn to 1 full turn is just a recommendation. I've talked to several other mechanics, and they say that they run a 1/4 turn out. Some guys run an 1/8 of a turn out. But this here is one of those areas that you can adjust. I currently have mine set at 1/2 turn out. Now, where I want to talk to you guys about another adjustment that is actually really important and oftentimes neglected is the adjustment here at the clutch cable. This is what a clutch cable looks like with the rubber boot pulled back, and I've got it pulled out from behind this cowling here, but it's adjustable right here. Very, very important, and it can be adjusted 1 screw to a 1/2 screw at a time. So if you're thinking that you need to screw it a whole bunch in or a whole bunch out, be careful doing that because it can really mess with your clutch movement up at the lever. One more crucial thing I should mention that's really quite important is the primary fluid and how much you put in. Now, this particular bike requires 1 quart of primary fluid, and that's it. If you go over a quart, even by just a few ounces, that level rises and it interferes with the clutch basket that's in there, and it'll actually cause it to catch. And then your bike will end up walking on you. But there's another reason that your bike can end up walking on you. And if you don't know what I mean by that, I'll explain it. What I mean by a bike walking on you is when you pull up in first gear to a stop sign and you pull the clutch in and you go to come to a stop, and you come to a stop and you take your hand off the brake, but you're still in first gear with the clutch pulled and your bike starts walking forward on you. That's called walking. There's other terms for it, but that's the term I use. Okay, so here's where things start getting a little dicey. When your clutch is pulled in and you release your clutch, that clutch needs to pull this clutch cable all the way in and disengage the clutch plates so that your clutch then goes into neutral when this is pulled in. If this isn't tight enough and it's too loose, when you go to pull this in, your clutch is still going to be engaged and your bike's going to walk. Or your clutch is just going to stay engaged while you're riding and shifting gears, which can smoke your gears, shift forks, clutch plates, and everything else. The opposite effect of that is if this is too tight, sure, it'll work. It disengages the clutch. But when you're going and you hammer on that throttle, you'll notice that your RPMs act differently. And what I mean by that is you get clutch slip. So you go and twist the throttle and say you're in second or third gear and your RPMs are just going to go whoop, and you're not going to be going anywhere on your speedo. And the reason for that is because your clutch is basically engaged because your clutch cable is too tight. So there is a happy medium there, and it's all adjusted and done right here at the clutch cable. Oftentimes in doing research, you'll hear people or forums or YouTube channels say, oh, you got something wrong inside your primary, or you've got something wrong inside your clutch plates, and you need to pull it all apart and start fixing, changing, and replacing things. Another thing that you'll hear is that in your primary side over here where your clutch basket is, that your clutch plates are warped and they're wavy, and so they're constantly engaging. And while those things are definitely a possibility, those are definitely not the first things you want to do when trying to adjust your clutch if your bike's walking on you or if your clutch just isn't engaging or any of the factors I've already previously talked about. So first and foremost, turn to your manual, get all of your specs and your adjustments figured out for the bike that you have. Second, I would check your clutch cable adjustment here. And third, I would make sure that your clutch adjustment inside your primary is adjusted according to the shop manual specifications. Like I said, I'm running mine at a half turn out, but that can be different. And then of course, it all comes down to the actual clutch lever working and making your bike do what your bike's supposed to do. If you're pulling your clutch lever in and your bike's still walking, you've got a problem. If your clutch is all the way out and you're smashing through the gears and your RPMs are going faster than your bike's going and something's off, you've got a problem. And those two problems, most likely, the first, when you pull your clutch in and it's not fully disengaging your clutch and your bike's walking, your clutch lever cable is probably too loose. The second, if you pull your clutch in and your bike's shifting fine and it's disengaging, but you're wrapping through the gears and your RPMs are flying and your bike's not going anywhere, that means your clutch cable's too tight because it's still engaging the clutch and it's spinning and not actually catching like it's supposed to do. So with all that said, MotoTubers, there's a lot of things that you can look into and that you can adjust on your own, whether it's your fluid level, your fluid viscosity, your clutch cable, your clutch adjustment inside your primary, also the clutch pull kit on the transmission side, and your clutch levers. And also don't forget, it's really important to have a brand new, nice clutch cable so that they operate freely without binding. But all of that to be said, check all these things, check your service manual, and don't give up. This bike has been pretty frustrating for me because everything I read online was telling me to do major repairs on the internals, or don't run this with that, or you can't run this with that, or whatever. And the truth is, you can. And you just need to do your time, your research, and put in that wrench time to figure these problems out. So with all that said, MotoTubers, I hope this video helped someone out there. I hope you learned a thing or two. And if so, give this video a big thumbs up. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and pass this on to somebody you think might get something out of it. All right, until next time, we'll catch you guys later.